Hello friends. Before we get into the future retrospective for patch 3.2, if you could spare me a minute of your time, I just want to address and clarify a few things. A number of you might be wondering why make these videos at all. Why not just concern ourselves with the updates related to the global version of Reverse? Ever since Reverse released for the global version, we've been behind by 2 patches. Although it's only 3 months of time, the future feels tantalizingly close, especially in regards to the current development strategy for this game. In the days when Bluepark was just releasing story character after story character with no real intention of providing a meta-focused gameplay, it was easy for us to hoard a lot of clear drops and currency and cherry-pick the characters that we had the most affinity for. I think it should be apparent to everyone that they have moved away from this development model into a model that is focused on bringing as much excitement as they can through releasing more complex and more powerful units. With their efforts focus largely on the concept of archetype-based team building, I'll also highlight the alarming trend in power inflation they are introducing further into the video. Now, the question of whether the endgame content itself is challenging and rewarding enough to warrant the investment into building these new teams is a different matter entirely, and I consider it still to be in the stages where it's debatable. Bluepark tries their best not to alienate their newer players, but to provide them with enough avenues to catch up to the older veteran player base within what I would approximate about 3 patches worth of time played. For that reason, the content is never overbearing to such a degree that it would make someone quit out of frustration. As it stands, Reveries in the Rain can and has been cleared over multiple patches since 2.7, borrowing Euphoria characters and key characters to cheese certain fight gimmicks. Speedrunners in CN have been doing this for the last 4 patches, including patch 3.2, where all of 500 meters was cleared on a free-to-play account in 5 days. But this is a discussion left for another day. So the point I'm trying to make is that our currency, whether it's draws in the form of unilogs or enhancement materials for Insight, Resonance, and Euphorias, they're all strained more than ever before. Whether you're free to play or a light spender, a dolphin or a whale, it has never been more important to pay close attention to the meta on the Chinese servers. I talked about this in the first retrospective video about power creep and expanding the existing content to allow players to solve more difficult puzzles like Reveries, and it seems like patch 3.2 is laying the foundations to move in that direction. So to touch again on why I make this segment, it isn't with the intention of spoiling future content for you, but to offer the best overview possible, so that eventually you can make the best decision for your own situation. This also serves to highlight the mentality of the Chinese player base for that patch, as well as serving as a record of sorts that you can reference later on to see the direction the developers had in mind when creating and updating content, as well as characters and archetypes. Anyway, that ended up being a little long-winded, so let's get into patch 3.2. Patch 3.2, A Flowing Feast, is the 2.5-year anniversary of this game, and as such, Bluepark has made a considerable effort into creating new content, new quality of life, and most interesting is finally the introduction of a brand new archetype called Lingering Glow. To summarize a few noteworthy events and changes, there is a free random 6-star unit with standard pool characters up to the end of patch 3.0. It's a smart logic system and not completely random, so it prioritizes the characters that you do not own before giving dupes. There is a free 5-star selector. Gone really are the days of 5-star reliability, as the power creep has moved significantly that it's hard to justify even the material cost to raise a 5-star character outside of a select few, but it's still a nice addition all the same for players starting in patch 3.2 or as recently as 3.0. As well as the normal jukebox, Bluepark also gives us a free collector's jukebox, where we have access to both the free and premium tracks. This results in a total pull income for free-to-play for patch 3.2 being 121 pulls. 71.2 worth of it distributed in the first half of the patch, 41.3 in the second half of the patch, as well as 9 extra unilogs from the Jukebox Premium track. Syndrome of Silence is Bluepark's reimagined take on a story-driven roguelite mode. Their intention with this mode isn't anything quite as serious as some may have been speculating when they announced it. Instead, it's a blend of the Pre-Storm Protocol as well as the windows to the other worlds. The rewards are likely seasonal in that the event itself lasts 72 days and mirrors similar patch event rewards that you purchase with story-farmed currency. From my experience having cleared this content about 8 times on increasing difficulty over 2 accounts, the power fantasy is at the heart of what the developers want to convey here, where you start with a limited number of lives, collect passive bonuses as well as item-based bonuses for the archetypes Blood Tithe, Dynamo, Lingering Glow, Ultimate, Rank Up, and Impromptu. By the end of a run, which usually takes slightly under an hour, you go from potato to doing well over a few million damage per round. Curiously, they decided to reuse the assets and fight logic that is available in Reveries up to 400 meters. There is your usual achievement collection game as well as a second hidden ending to discover. Although I might harbor some initial reservations, I think the mode has a lot of potential to deliver more story and unique power fantasy elements without being overbearing on the more casual community. Main's Bulletin has gotten a significant update. This change, however, has divided opinions from the Chinese player base. The scoring system as well as the rewards have been divided up into more tiers. By that, I mean in our existing version of Main's Bulletin, you just need to achieve the rank of SSS to get the full amount of currency, which is usually around the 1 million damage mark. Also, the fight on our version tends to be extremely light and requiring very minimal defenses or sustain. The new revamped Main's Bulletin has a scoring system up to 10 million damage per encounter, whereupon you unlock the last reward. The fights themselves also require you to consider defensives, or at least a powerful healer like Kipperina, in order to ignore certain fight mechanics. In certain situations, you will not be able to last the full duration of the rounds without an undying mechanic from Robuska or Necrologist. As a result, the fights end up quite demanding for those without strong rosters or specific characters that are niche to the specific fights. For example, 2 out of 3 fights require you to have a high amount of AoE and sustain, and only 1 fight is a single target but has an extremely high survivability requirement. Add to this fact that the scores are now part of a witness system that visually represents the ranks on a player's profile. Over time, I fear that this will replace the existing metric of account progression from Limbo Lucidscape to the depths of Reveries and Wailing Well to becoming the ultimate metric of how players represent their account strength. So the CN community has vocalized some of the negativity associated with adding a rank-based system. In this regard, sentiments such as requiring higher damage and defensives, as well as essentially selling the archetype that released with the patch in order to clear efficiently, on top of the rewards being largely untouched, has given rise to a lot of cost, benefit, and FOMO arguments. For veterans that enjoy pushing mains and posting scores, it will be more demanding than ever before, and for the casual player base, they'll likely see a drop in the amount of currency they can get from mains. Onto the meat of the patch. 3.2 releases the limited character Beryl, who is the Intelligence Afflatus-based main DPS for the new archetype, Lingering Glow. The character Brume Tavernier is a Beast Afflatus sub-DPS for the Dynamo/Lingering Glow archetype. Additionally, Euphoria characters are once again in the spotlight from the mixed reactions of patch 3.1's A-Knight. Bluepark has certainly taken the criticism and made sure that 3.2's Euphoria characters are very competitive in the current meta standings and sufficiently strong in reveries. So starting with Beryl, the Lingering Glow archetype is actually not as complicated as it may seem. The difficulty lies in the accumulation and sustain of the Lingering Glow value depending on the length of the fight. Both Halo, which Beryl provides, as well as the Burn debuff, contribute to the final value of Lingering Glow. The core mechanic is basically, at every 150 Lingering Glow stacks, Beryl does an AoE attack that is considered a follow-up attack called Destined Doom. She works by providing different variations of this attack based on which crystals she has equipped. Blue crystals give her follow-up attack a chance to trigger a second, smaller follow-up attack. Each blue crystal increases this chance by 33%. The blue versatility card, created when equipped with blue crystals, increases the counter towards the 150 trigger amounts by 30, 45, and 75 points, depending on its rank. Green crystals increase the rank of the Destined Doomed follow-up attack, increasing the multiplier of the follow-up while also allowing any rank 2 and 3 cards to apply a small amount of Halo. The green versatility card grants one skill rank to whichever skill is placed behind it in the action queue. Purple crystals increases the damage of the follow-up attack for every stack of Lingering Glow, while also allowing ally skills to apply Halo. The purple versatility card grants stacks of a buff called Vision, which is also the effect that is given by her S2, which reduces the amount of Lingering Glow needed to trigger the follow-up attack, Destined Doom, by a flat 50 points. In short, Double Blue focuses largely on doing as many follow-up attacks as possible. Double Green focuses on allowing rank-up characters to aid in the accumulation of Halo as well as ranking up their cards, but it is the weakest crystal build available. Double Purple is focused on ramping up to a high amount of Lingering Glow to take advantage of the strong multipliers the follow-up attack receives when hitting these high values. So in reality, a very easy to understand character once you understand those two principles about Beryl's follow-up attack and the augmentations it receives when Beryl is equipped with different crystal colors. The sentiments regarding Beryl is largely that she is a very strong character, rivaling the output of both Lucy's Dynamo team as well as the Blood Tithe team. But ultimately, she is brought down by the fact that she is quite a vulnerable glass cannon, with many suggesting pushing her to Resonance 15 being a must to improve her survivability. The Lingering Glow team of Beryl, Isolde, and Fatutu lacks the survivability of the other meta teams because of its lack of a dedicated healer and support. She is also a character that suffers from success. By that, I mean that while she is perfectly fine at P0, her portraits when comparing P0 to P5 provide the single largest increase in character potential that we've seen so far in the game, gaining an absurd 232% personal damage increase as well as a 191% team damage increase when tested under a 8-round fight length. Add to this fact, the archetype is largely based on ramping up to high values of Lingering Glow, which is achievable by round 5. She will only get stronger if the Lingering Glow cap and the accumulation of it is in some way increased, as was the case with Blood Tithe units. The ultimate vision for this archetype is to achieve a 4-man team that generates 375 lingering glow per round, so as to be able to perform 5 follow-up attacks when everyone has sufficiently hit their ramp. From having played her pretty extensively and owning both P0 and P5, she feels slightly underwhelming in her current state, but has an undeniably high investment potential in the form of the 2 missing characters to complete her archetype. In my opinion, she is a must-pick for both new and veteran players, but just at P0. Anything beyond that before we know more about the remaining 2 characters would be leaving quite a lot to chance. Before I talk about Brume, it's best if I continue with the theme of lingering glow and talk about Isolde. So, Isolde's Euphoria is a complete rework of the character from a general support to a highly specialized core component of the Lingering Glow team, much like that of how Semmelweis is to Nordica's Blood Tithe team. She is no longer a flexible unit, but the engine that sustains the Lingering Glow mechanic, enabling massive team-wide buffs as well as conserving Lingering Glow. Her debuff skill now shreds both reality and mental defenses. Her 3 states of Interlude, Prelude, and Finale have been completely reworked to provide 2 team-wide buffs. Her Finale in particular grants a crazy 108% damage increase buff when Lingering Glow is at 300 stacks or higher. She now also passively generates 1 Moxie if the team has 150 Lingering Glow or higher. She casts a follow-up attack called Intermezzo when an enemy has 6 stacks of burn or higher. And through this attack, her most important enhancement through her Euphoria is activated, which is the ability to record a portion of the lost Lingering Glow stacks after they are consumed by Beryl, and reapplying a fixed percentage of it depending on whether she is in Prelude, Interlude, or Finale states. She is also the reason why the current best team composition for the Lingering Glow team is Beryl, Isolde, Flutterpage, and Fatutu. Fatutu is more core to the team than Flutterpage is, but as it stands, because they both perform follow-up attacks, they are able to take advantage of Isolde's special ability called Pre-Ignition, which gives all allies a stacking buff that allows them to apply burn when attacking. Another significant change in patch 3.2 is that Euphoria characters now get updated portraits that make sense with their newly acquired Euphorias. In Isolde's case, her P1 increases her damage buff from 18% to 25%, as well as the Finale buff to 145%, up from 108%. Her P2 drastically reduces her ramp time to enter Interlude to 8 stacks of burn and Finale to 20 stacks of burn. Her P3 increases the amount of Lingering Glow she is able to preserve per round by an additional 5%, which may not sound relevant, but actually under Sims does provide up to an 8% increase in overall team damage, most likely due to the fact that Lingering Glow as a resource is still pretty scarce to accumulate. All 3 of these portraits appear to be quite significant in improving both damage and smoothness of the Lingering Glow team. Moving on to Brume. So regardless of what you may have heard about Brume Tavernier, in my opinion, she represents the most interesting character that Bluepock has released in a while. What I mean by this is not just based on her recently released kit, but beyond just skills and numbers, the amount of absurd role compression contained in a single character is next to nothing we've seen before. So bear with me while I try to explain this as best I can without having the numbers available to us just yet. Her kit was announced on the 15th, so it will be about 4 days from when you'll be watching this video, but to summarize, Brume is the first character to have a hybrid archetype kit. She is primarily a Corvus-based Dynamo support unit, but also possesses Burn, allowing her to function as a Flutterpage replacement on the Lingering Glow team. She operates by building a resource called Thermoelectric Effect, which she gains by using her skills. At the end of the round, she uses this resource to perform an automatic follow-up attack. The supplies burn, and the damage and number of attacks can be further enhanced by consuming dynamo. If enough dynamo is consumed, it triggers an additional AoE follow-up attack that applies burn. That's just the beginning of the absurdity in the level of power creep she holds. Her S2 is a team-wide buff that grants true tempering. Just by using the skill, she grants all allies Genesis damage, as well as mental damage-based incantation might, enemy crit resist shred, and enemy crit defense shred. Take your favorite buffing support and basically double or triple their potency, and this is the same effect. What is more alarming is that she does this with no prerequisites, like being at a certain dynamo level or lingering glow amount. It's just a one button solves all solution. You might be thinking, okay, she's pretty good, but there's more. The follow-up attack that she performs is not just a normal follow-up attack, but it is affected by Incantation Might, a skill that was unique to Corvus, which allows Corvus to ramp to such a crazy high damage level. When follow-up attacks, which are often passive and don't cost AP, also scale with Incantation Might, it's similar to adding an entirely separate damage modifier to the damage formula, which results in a complete inflation of numbers that we know thus far. So to summarize, I'll predict that Brume will also be a tier 0 meta support for Corvus and Beryl's teams, since they both not only benefit from her resource generation capabilities, but also her insane buff skill and passive follow-up attacks. Why Brume is so interesting is because it shows Bluepock's willingness to introduce this level of power creep, and as a result gives us an insight into their design philosophy for the characters to come. I would love to dedicate a video solely focused on analyzing Brume once she releases here in a few days, so I'll reserve the rest of my thoughts for the time being. Anjo Nala also received a significant update through her Euphoria. Her already strong and versatile base kit has received refinements that perfects her overall playstyle. Her entire goal of binding to an ally is now largely focused on allies that take extra actions, particularly star and mineral afflatus units like the updated Euphoria Kalaa Baunaa. This allows her to build up a new resource called Legato Harmony, which unlocks her ability to cast her ultimate for free. The cost of using her ult is now reduced to 15% HP instead of 50, making her a less risky character to use in endgame content. And she receives significant bonuses from her ult depending on the afflatus of the character she binds with. The CN community is largely divided when it comes to Anjo Nala's Euphoria. You mostly have veterans who, while acknowledging the increased stability in her kit, also noting that the Euphoria doesn't bring any meaningful change beyond quality of life and damage upgrades. The consensus among veterans, including myself, is that Anjo Nala remains an incredible pickup for new players. She is extremely versatile and easily one of the best early game characters. Her base kit provides a very strong AoE as well as control in the form of her Captivated debuff, something which newer rosters will be lacking. But the problem resides when trying to justify pulling for Anjo Nala when you have a limited number of unilogs. Because her banner doesn't have any carryover, the investment potential when weighing a new archetype like Lingering Glow to a character like Anjo Nala, who does not have much in the way of future investment, unless you're banking on Jiu's second Euphoria and Liang Yue's future Euphoria to expand on Anjo Nala's existing kit, it does present quite a bait-like structure for those still without Anjo Nala. Add to the fact that they are releasing her new unique skin, it's a choice that's likely to create a dent in your wallet. Like Isolde, Anjo Nala's portraits have also gotten a significant update. Her P1 is the largest single portrait improvement to a character in the game, which again ties to the overall theme of the 3.2 update when considering Beryl and Isolde, where character dupes are made more enticing than ever before. Her P1 gives a personal damage increase of 82% and a team damage increase of 35% when tested under an 8-round environment with Kalaa Baunaa, Flutterpage, and Fatutu. The rest of her portraits remain largely insignificant comparatively, with P4 being a notable increase in her ability to use her Captivate control ability. My assessment regarding Anjo Nala is that because she is essentially a floater character and does not have a particular archetype outside of follow-up attack, her support and healer characters tend to be with Flutterpage and Fatutu, who are already stretched thin because of their importance in the Lingering Glow team. And on top of this, she competes with the main DPS for a position in the group, thus lowering the overall damage ceiling. The only reason I would be compelled to pull for Anjo Nala is just for the safety net of having a character with a strong follow-up and the ability to control. As it stands, however, she is not essential to have in order to fully clear Reveries in the Rain as well as Wailing Whale. Kalaa Baunaa also received a fairly relevant update through her Euphoria. Bluepark clearly chose to update Kalaa Baunaa alongside Anjo Nala for a specific reason. Kalaa Baunaa's skills are now all considered follow-up attacks, meaning she has a follow-up after each skill, and she operates as a ramping character through her new buff called Radiance, which is a stacking buff that increases her ultimate and follow-up attack damage by up to 40%. She also enters the battle with a full stack of Satin stacks, foregoing her old, extremely slow ramp style of play. Her ultimate has also gotten a buff in the form of creating a preparation card depending on which type of planet she removes the most when ulting. My analysis echoes other CN researchers' sentiments in that she still remains quite a generic follow-up attack character. Her multipliers actually didn't serve to improve her overall damage that significantly, her damage being roughly a third of Euphoria Anjo Nala's output. What is clear is that she's intended to be played with Anjo Nala, in reality serving as a battery for Anjo Nala's follow-up attacks, as well as providing the correct afflatus that improves follow-up damage. A concern beyond just a moderate damage increase is that her Euphoria does not find a place for Kalaa Baunaa on an existing archetype team. If it's purely damage or follow-up attacks we're looking at, the goalpost has shifted very far forward when comparing the likes of Euphoria Kalaa Baunaa to any of the top meta teams. It's debatable whether investing Euphoria materials for Kalaa Baunaa would even be worth it for any players following a meta plan. What the 3.2 banner structure does provide is for older players who own all the characters included in the Euphoria update, the ability to get some additional mileage of these characters who might have been collecting a lot of dust, at least until the 3rd anniversary. In terms of pull priority, for anyone who does not own the Euphoria updated characters, if you're looking to play Lingering Glow and invest into Beryl's new team, owning Isolde is a must. Luckily, she will be available in the treble counter shop for patch 3.2. Anjo Nala and definitely Kalaa Baunaa remain options that will have to be based on the player's available unilogs as well as their affinity for the characters themselves. It will be enticing to pull for Anjo Nala in particular, or to even chase after her P1 through her limited banner. Luckily, we'll have more time to see what the future holds in terms of new characters on the horizon before solidifying a meta-based pull plan. In regards to Beryl and Brume, they will more than likely be must-pull characters for anyone interested in playing Lingering Glow or anyone who has pulled Charon and is going to pull on Corvus. There's a few things I didn't find time to cover in this video, as the length is already getting way too long. With that said, let me know if this information is helpful as well as what kind of content you would like to see more of. That's it for me. Till next time.